Look, you've heard me say many times that what we believe to be the fundamentals of Western civilisation are under siege. And we saw this yesterday. These protests are nothing more than an attack on our society, its values and its history. And remember, by militant, Marxist, left-wing minorities. And they're everywhere. One of my concerns is that they're in our schools and universities, brainwashing talented young Australians. Mums and dads watching us would know what this means. Their children pull them up for what they say. I had a young bloke tell me that Donald Trump was going to blow up the world, and children weep over climate change because of the untruths that they're taught. And any legitimate intellectual challenge to this stuff is silenced. Well, a metaphor of this is Professor Peter Ridd, formerly a brilliant physicist at James Cook University, who was sacked because he appeared on my Sky News program and disputed the conventional scientific wisdom, so-called, that climate change was killing the Great Barrier Reef. He was sacked. He took James Cook University to court. He won $1.2 million in compensation for unlawful sacking. But last week, the federal court overturned the decision. It basically argued that the university's code of conduct, which I might add the court found very difficult to interpret, nonetheless, the federal court found in favour of the code of conduct against the intellectual freedom that Professor Ridd should enjoy at any university to argue a contrary view. If universities don't prosper intellectual curiosity and challenging debate, then we become mirror images of a Stalinist system where everyone must think alike. Peter Ridd's not the only casualty here. Freedom of speech has again been the ultimate victim, and everyone watching this knows that to be true. Australians are now genuinely afraid to say what they believe when what they believe challenges left-wing orthodoxy. The very smart Gideon Rozner from the Institute of Public Affairs joins me. Gideon, thank you for your time. Well, simple question, where to? Intellectual freedom.
Well, our first job will be to go to High Court and defend Peter Ridd's win in first instance a few years ago. This is about more than just Peter Allen. It's about more than just even the debate about climate change. This is about how universities, public institutions that are funded by us, the taxpayer, treat dissent. You know, universities have always been, to some extent, a little bit left of centre, but the difference now is they are systematically stamping out alternative views, whether it be treating Peter Ridd like the way he has been treated for speaking up on climate change, whether it be charging conservative groups on campus outrageous security fees to have guest speakers, whether it be all sorts of codes of conduct applying to students in university that lets them be dragged down to kangaroo courts and grievance tribunals for creating an unsafe campus environment because of the views they espouse. Universities should be open spaces for free speech.
But here you've got a marine geophysicist, a Great Barrier Reef expert whose 30-year academic career ends because he disputed on my program the conventional wisdom that climate change was killing the Great Barrier Reef, which, of course, it is not. So what message is this sending to the wider community?
Well, to academics, it sends the message that if you speak up, then we'll find some sort of bogus clause in the code of conduct or whatever other instrument we dream up to go after you and cost you your job. You know, Peter Ridd was able to bring this case against James Cook University because he was at the end of his career. But there are many, many young academics who will now have to choose between speaking the truth and putting bread on the table. And that is completely antithetical to what a university should be about. What it says to the wider community is that organs of the state will come after you for going after the conventional orthodoxy. Don't forget, Alan, that the federal court came after Andrew Bolt because of what he had said in a column a few years ago. Don't forget the Australian Human Rights Commission came after people like Callum Thwaites for suggesting that an Indigenous-only computer lab at the Queensland Technology University in Brisbane that an Indigenous-only computer lab amounted to segregation, which is actually the truth. Increasingly, these organs of the state are being used to crush views that go against the traditional orthodoxies, and that's not what they should be for. Our public institutions should protect our rights and our freedoms as individuals. Otherwise, they're not public at all.
Well, I must say the British Education Secretary, Gideon, got it right last week. Gavin Williamson argued that British universities would have to demonstrate their commitment to free speech to qualify for financial bailouts. So, Dan Tehan, why do you continue to fund a university, James Cook University, which denies the very intellectual freedom that should prosper at universities? Gideon, thank you for your time. Always good to talk to you.